Hi, Nardes. How's it
Hey,
going?
good on you, Johan.
Good, man. Good. Had a pretty busy weekend. Yourself?
Yeah, no, was quite not as busy as yours, not nearly, but you had a productive weekend, so good.
No, I did. No, I had a work weekend. I spoke at a healing retreat, which is pretty cool. Did a talk on nutrition and lifestyle, and how to heal using nutrition and lifestyle. So, yeah, I thought it went well. Everyone it was well received. So, I'll be doing another one in Jan.
Well, you know what you're talking about, so it should go well.
I mean, I hope so.
So yeah,
uh,
topic of discussion today. This is going to be quite a. I don't think we'll touch on this on quite a few episodes in the future as well, but. It's very hard to put
mm,
into words what is God, but we're going to try this on this episode. What is the meaning of
yep.
everything? Why are we here? And maybe this will shed some light on a few things, and also understand our word and what we're saying here. It's only truth based on our personal experiences and what we've experienced and gone through up to now. So yeah, I'm sure when we start getting guests on the show, when that time comes and we've decided on that, then I'm sure we're going to have some interesting conversations when we're going to bring this up again. And it might also
Mm,
give us a much bigger scope of view at that point. But yeah, we're going to attempt this. So
awesome, dude.
yeah, where do we start? You want to start with this?
Well, I guess we start with definition. So it's like, what do we mean when we say God, right? Like, what falls within the boundary of the word God? And I guess one metaphor we can use is God is the circle whose center is everywhere and its circumference is nowhere. Or we could say that God is the envelope with which of which everything else is inside of. There is no, there is nothing outside of God. Perhaps you could say the all, because nothing else could truly be the source, let's say, of all of creation and existence. So if you're looking to go back behind, because things create themselves, right? We see that the whole universe is full of things that are self-creating. They perpetuate and create new forms and new things from themselves. The whole universe is a replicating machine. And so we can kind of assume that God is of this nature of the things that God creates, then also further go on to create again and again and again and again. So if you want to trace it all the way back to the origin point, and I would argue that you can't really define anything else as truly the one God, then we must trace it back to something which is the origin, and therefore the sum total or summation of all that is.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have anything to add to that
no,
definition.
definitely. It's the all. You said that already. So everything encapsulated. You can't. You can note every single thing as God, or you can note all as God, because as we said now, all is God. So a flower is God, because immediately, especially because of specific religious systems, people have this idea where it's still a being. God far surpasses being a being. If if we look at I am that I am in the Bible, ek is dit wat ek is. So I am that I am. So we had this, I think we had this conversation before, but I am that, and if you just put a comma after the that, and then I am, it sums it up quite easily then, because it, he, she, whatever name you want to connect to him, and that's only for your own personal preferences or for explanation reasons, for reasons to explain. He is that, or it is that, because if it is not that, it could not have existed, because because it was created, and for it to be created, it must have come from God. Now you can say, okay, then certain people are God. Yes, we all are God, but not. But because you created something, doesn't mean you are the actual creator. It was still created through God. We get thoughts. We live under the illusion that the thoughts come from ourselves, but it comes from the dualistic system, either negative or positive. And that thought still gets feeded from the one source, whereas you need to give credit to, because without that source, you couldn't have thought it, even if it's negative or positive, because it's a balancing system. That's why it's so irrational to think that you can only have the good.
Yeah.
Because what's that verse? Isaiah 46 verse.
I think it's 47 verse 5.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe if you can just look that up, that's quite powerful. Isaiah 46.
I'll look it up. 47.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it's 47.
Just hang tight, guys. There's a reason why we're just quickly pausing here.
I'm gonna grab my Bible quick.
Anyway, okay, we'll get to that just now. Otherwise, I'm just gonna hang with it. You can have a look at that. But there he directly says it, she, however you prefer to view this. We always talk about he, but it's just me and Yuan were brought up in a Christian system, whereas he is God. But we've already far surpassed that thought system of thinking he's a male. It's just a way. It's just a way of talking.
It's for the convenience of speech. If anything.
That's all, man. Like I'm not gonna get into a discussion or a debate with someone whereas I think God is a man. I think that is ridiculous.
It's completely
so. But he directly says there that he creates darkness and he creates the light, and he is the Lord our God. He is responsible for everything. So on the greater scheme of things, on the level where there's a one and it's excluding duality, that one has both of them inside. And you can go ahead and label the devil as the negative, and because I've personally in my life currently I'm going through a lot of dark things, but I can't blame the devil, because where am I going to grow? How am I going to grow from there? How am I going to move forward? Because then I'm not taking responsibility for the issues I'm facing in my life. And each and every single issue that you're facing in your life, you have the responsibility to react to it. So either you react to it negatively or either you react to it positively, but that responsibility will and have always been on us. Doesn't matter what happens to you in life. Doesn't matter if if you wake up one morning and there's a small little baby lying in front of your door, and it's not yours. Yeah, it's not your fault, but it's still your responsibility. You're the guy left with that choice now. What are you going to do with this baby? Are you going to feed it to a pack of lions? Are you going to flush it down the toilet? Are you going to take it to someone? Are you going to go seek help? What is your action that you'll do based on how you think about it and react about it at that point?
Yeah.
It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. So
Yes.
so that's how I see God, as I see that if negative things happen to you, there's something to learn. If good things happen to you, there's something to be thankful. Now both of these are forward moving energies. So both of them will move you forward in life. Both of them will make you a better person. How can you label one as the devil? And 99% of people do this.
Yeah.
I do it. I do it. When shitty things happen, believe you me, 2-3 weeks tops. Normally it's just days. It in the past it could have been months, years, but now 2-3 weeks and I'm over it. I get to a point where I realize this is still my responsibility. And if you think about it, all the problems in the world, all the real problems that last, is because people don't take responsibility.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So he is the all, and when we're saying the all, is the source. And if you think source, sorcerer, whereas people link that again to devil, it's a person that pulls information from source. And if you're thinking you can't do it and you're not able to do it, you're doing it on a daily basis. You're taking instructions on a daily basis, good or bad, and you're left with those choices and how you react to it afterwards, and that choices give you results. And those choices were your responsibility.
Yeah.
So, let's...
Yep. I found it.
Yes, please, Johan, please. That's really powerful.
So, okay, I've got my 26 parallel translation Bible.
Oh, that's
here.
insane, eh?
This is the volume number 2. So this is the second volume of the Old Testament.
This will help so much.
There's 2 Old Testament volumes and 1 new volume for the New Testament. So it's 45 verse 7. I got them mixed up in my head, sorry. It says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. I think that's the King James. Then it's the other translations, or I'm gonna read all the different translations so you get an idea of the sum total of what the original text may have meant. Forming light and creating darkness, making prosperity and creating misfortune. I form the light and create the dark. I make good fortune and create calamity.
Wow.
I make well-being and create woe. I make the light, I create darkness. Author alike of prosperity and trouble. Okay. I am Jehovah that doeth all these things. I, Jehovah, am he who does all these things. I, the eternal, the true God, I do it all. So,
Wow.
For anybody to try to so right there, we that's the end of the entire lie that you're sold by most churches,
Yes.
right? It's done, right? It's gone. That's all a lie. That whole thing is an illusion. This idea that you're in an actual war, right, between the forces of good and evil, this is ridiculous. It's not the fundamental, the superficial nature of reality is that it's a war, right? It is a conflict at a superficial level of truth. But actually, fundamentally, when you get down to it and you get down to the core of it, as a prophet wants us to do, as the prophets want the answers, you find out that no, in fact, actually the source of everything is God. The evil, the misery, the pain, the suffering. It's just that it's very difficult to actually grapple with that. And the reason that most pastors don't preach this is because most pastors are unwilling to accept this truth. I once had a pastor tell me that he didn't like the yin-yang symbol because it insinuates that there's evil within God. And I think the problem is that he simply hasn't spent enough time in his Bible. And he's missed this very obvious,
you just give that
very
type of
clear
guy,
and almost unarguable.
you just give him enough psychedelics.
Yeah, that'll probably solve it. So, I'm still on friendly terms with him to this day. So I'm definitely not going to mention his name because I don't want to do slander. But it just that and I realized like, okay, so there's this part of the truth, and it's in the Bible. It's in various religious texts. But the reality is that God created Jesus as much as God created the devil. It's like,
Yes.
In a sense,
You're right.
It's
I agree.
right, and the Jesus and the devil are just both God wearing a mask in some fundamental sense.
Because both of them have a purpose.
And yes, because and so here we kind of now get into the question of, well, what is the purpose? Why is this whole thing set up? Why did God create anything and everything? Well, it's difficult for us to really speak on God's intentions because that would require a little bit of hubris, to be entirely honest. But we can guess, we can make a semi-approximation. And probably the best we can do in terms of why everything was created is something like, because it is within God's nature. It is God's nature to create and explore and experience in some sense. And so a picture we could use is that one day God went and sat down on a rock and dreamed up a multiverse. And when he's done telling an infinite number of stories, he will complete his meditation and withdraw all of the beings in his imagination will kind of merge back into his consciousness. Although this whole process exists outside of time, so it's sort of an eternal process. But that's sort of the closest I can come to expressing or explaining what God is up to.
That's powerful.
But even that is just
speculation.
It's pure speculation. It's pure
speculation based on experiences you've had. Also, there's type of I didn't think this way, and you didn't think this way just randomly one day, and it's based on a lot of things and things you've experienced that other people haven't experienced, and places you were willing to go that other people weren't willing to go, and whereas you met,
I could describe some of those experiences.
And I think we should, but I just want to also mention something. Based on what you said, and while we're in this rut, because that was what I was writing here, so many things that came up while you were talking as well.
Let's address.
As you were saying now, I'm going to fall back where you said, okay, for the creation, yes, but also for the destruction, the light and the darkness. Now, how can you create something if everything is not destroyed? How can we make something anew? How can we birth something if there's still something? So you can see on that level, there's a reason why God has this. In the Bhagavad Gita as well, He's the destroyer and He's the creator. So let's come to spirits, because people think now we're saying no, there's no spirits, there's no entities. No, dude, there is. There's forces, and one team is on the white team, other team is on the black team. And both of them will teach you things. Because if you've got too much white, guess what, buddy? You're going to get down to earth again. You're going to fall on your knees again and experience the black. There's no way about it. There's no other way about it. So spirits, any other force except God or source that you can't see, and it's not an entity, it's an all, is the only way I can explain it. But we're all except him or it or she, or I don't want to use all the gender pronouns, but
We'll be here for a few minutes.
but
Let's hurry.
we all function in the world of duality still. Okay.
Yeah.
And how I see it from my side, what you said as well, I want to fall back to that as well. Whereas, if we all function on the form of duality, and God is the one that has both of them in him, and Jesus said we need to be like him. And if you look at Jesus's example, he acted as the one. He didn't judge. He didn't break up sides. Yes, when there's certain things, like when he turned the tables around and flipped it over and got angry, it's because you will not use the Lord your God's name in vain. Because that's using his name in vain. It's not like saying Jesus. That's not the only way to use God's name in vain. It's to use the word God and to make money on it. But the intentions is actually to fool people. It's not to bring truth to people. If you make money on it, and
it was exploitation.
Yes,
it was like,
and you bring truth with that, great. You can make money on that, but bring it with truth and not to exploit people or to limit them down and dumb them down again, because then you're actually a problem. You are creating, even this where there's a left side and a right side, it's creating duality. That's why duality is actually a curse in this world, and that's the reason for all wars, for all conflict is because I chose a side, you chose a side, I don't agree with what you're saying, and I'll use force to prove you I'm right. So I feel in the middle of destruction and creation, whereas Jesus is the middle path, whereas we now know, and if you look at his example, he acted as God. What is God then? And me and Johan spoke about this before this, just lightly, but isn't he love? That's the only force that changes and transcends
duality.
And it always moves with truth. And it always takes you up to a higher level.
Yeah.
But now we're thinking love, like we're seeing hearts and people in love, and it's not the type of love I'm talking about. I'm not talking about superficial love. I'm talking about actual love. I'm talking about the love that a father feels when his son, his daughter, his wife has all died, and he's sitting in that dark place and really feeling the feelings for them.
Yeah.
I feel that is much more accurate than making nice little hearts or saying love is holding hands. Love is the truth that comes out in pain.
Yeah.
So it goes deep, but I think the folks will understand what we're saying here. It's love is that thing, whereas there's nothing that's still the one thing you got. It's still the one thing that'll allow you to rebuild, even if everything is destroyed, burned to dust. It's the
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
thing that can still raise you up. If that was not available, if that
Yeah.
power or energy or what, love is just a name, but that power or energy of source, of true source that moves with truth, if that was not available, we would
Yeah.
all not be here. We won't exist because, I mean, that's your motivation factor for anything you do in life. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reason why you keep people close to you. Yes, there's a lot of people walking around using people and those type of things, but there's still love present, even if it's not for other people, it's for yourself.
Yeah. But it's often just in a broken or misguided attempt at love.
Yes,
You
you're
know.
right, actually.
A lot of times, it's, and I mean, I struggle to say this with confidence about all evil, but a lot of evil comes from the place of seeking love. A lot of what we call evil acts start with the seeking of love and connection.
Yes, and it's that love that's not actually the real love. It's the, we can actually call it, I don't know, man. There's so many words you can call it. Attachment. I think
Yeah, attachment,
obsession,
obsession, you know. Yeah.
controlling behavior. But yeah, so that's how I see love. I, and if you've got a creator and a destroyer, you must also understand that even stars end. Guess what? I was watching what's his name, Stephen Hawking. I was watching things about them this week. Even black holes have a timeline.
Yeah.
Like everything ends. Your life has stopped 70, 80 hours, 80 years, 100 years, then it's over. But with the factor of love, there was progress. Doesn't matter if it's a little or a lot. It's only love that progressed. It's not hate, not anger, not jealousy, not fear, not. Uh, yeah, Johan, sorry, man. This topic is so fucking dense, man. Help me out here. Like,
No, it's so vast, man. I think so let's um let's kind of look back, take a step back and look like, okay, so because this is very difficult for a lot of people to accept. Like, it took you and I a couple of years of this revelation pressing on us of the non-duality of God, and transcending that. No, I'm not answering that phone call, sorry, the phone's buzzing. It can take a long time to really process through non-duality and actually get out of dualist thinking, because as mammals, right, it's very difficult for us to perceive a snake as anything other than
a
a
danger.
demonic, horrible, terrifying dragon that's going to take our lives from us, right? Like, when you look at a dragon, all a dragon is a personification of all of the fears of man. It breathes fire. We're afraid of uncontrolled burns because we can get burnt in a forest fire. It has sharp claws. Many animals have sharp claws and have maimed us over the past. That has sharp teeth, and it can fly. And there was a certain period in history when there was large predatory birds that used to hunt us. So it's we're still mammals, so we're still afraid of death from a personal ego perspective, right? Because the biological entities desire to preserve themselves. There's that innate nature to want to continue. So that biological nature leads us to have a psychological nature that desires well, that splits the world into what is beneficial for our biological existence and what is unbeneficial for our biological existence, and we categorize beneficial as good and unbeneficial as bad. But it's even murkier than that, because as sort of culture and society has changed over time, people have assumed what is now beneficial to our biological existence, or what seems beneficial to our biological existence now, is always beneficial to our biological existence now, and our ability to thrive in this physical reality. So then you end up with ideas that sort of carry on as if they were, the word of God, but in fact they are just something that used to be a really good idea and is no longer actually a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll give a simple kind of silly joke example. So, and it's used by preachers often. So I like every now and then throwing in one of these ones because people in churches will recognize them. So, the daughter is learning from her mom how to cook, and she teaches her how to cook a fish and how to do it from basically from freshly caught all the way process the whole fish. And so they get all the skins off, etc., cut it open, gut it, all of the scales, etc. It's all ready. She cuts the head and the tail off, throws the body in and the head and the tail in as well. Right? It's a full fish soup. And she asks her mom, well, why do we cut the head and the tail off? And her mom's like, no, I don't know. That's the way we've always done it. So, a couple of months roll around, Christmas comes, and grandma comes over. And the daughter goes to her mom and is like, so her daughter, her mom, and the grandma in the kitchen, and they're preparing the a chicken stew. And so she's working on the fish, and she asks grandma, so grandma, why do we always cut the head and the tail off the fish and put them in separately into the same pot? And she says, oh honey, that's because the pots at home were too small to fit the whole fish in. Right? But even though they have a pot that's big enough for the new fish, they still cut the head and the tail off because that's the way it was always done. So
Yeah.
it's the solution, the practical solution to the problem now might not be the practical solution to the problem in the future. Right? And so this is where we can start to get into behaviors that can actually be very harmful or destructive. So in our past, it was really beneficial to be very, very tribal and take my tribe's stance. Right? This is to now expand it to the global conflicts and the things we're seeing.
Because if you weren't taking a stance, you would have probably died.
Yeah, exactly. And we existed in a world where the level of human consciousness was a lot lower than it is now. And so there's a certain point that we have to come to where we step away from the tribalistic way of thinking and out of duality into non-duality. Otherwise, we will not transcend global conflicts. It will just keep happening.
Yes.
And the only way that we can do that is to stop judging others. It's one of the main things, is to stop judging things as other.
Yeah. And I can be honest, I still do that, man. And I think we all do. And that's why we're striving towards the example of Jesus in the long run. But I don't think it's something that's going to happen overnight. But you need to be of understanding and know that you can't, and it's exactly, it comes back again. I always use this guy, Jung's work. If you're not willing to go into the shadows, in your own personal shadows and dark spaces in your mind, how are you actually going to sort out the problems that have been bugging you for the rest of your life or for all of your life? If you look at the example of Jesus, where he went up the mountain and he fought the devil, because a lot of people are like, okay, so but Jesus fought the devil, man, and like, come on. Yes. So if the devil was not there, what progress would Jesus have not made? Like, there would have been a massive amount of progress that even Jesus would not have been able to make. He needed that temptation. He needed those negative things actually afflicting him and almost overcoming him with tricks. And because at the end of the day, if you keep on making wrong choices, you're going to keep on getting shitty results. But at some point, all of us, every single one of us, doesn't matter if it's a small thing or big things, at some point you're like, okay, well, I guess it's now my fucking time to learn, right? And then we expand. So leaving out the devil and saying, I don't want that, it's not possible. You're just fooling yourself, because the bad things that's happening, especially I'm not gonna, currently I'm not ready for it yet, but there's a lot of shit things happening in my life currently as well. And it's not me being a victim, because I've taken responsibility for the shit, and it's taken me, especially this last week, where I've realized, I can't fucking complain. Sometimes do, and I speak to people close to me about this, and I complain with my mom, and I'm like, I'm so angry, and I'm externalizing it towards something or someone. But I still have the choice and responsibility of how I react to it, and what I'm going to do from it here onwards forward. What am I going to create out of such shitty situations? Am I just going to fall back and say, okay, this is a shitty situation, I can't handle this, I'm just going to sit back, lie on the bed, smoke a ton of weed, and just pretend it's not there, and hopefully at some point it's just going to disappear? That's not a realistic view of life. It's not going to disappear. The shit's going to get worse. External results are going to get worse. So I think a big lesson with this specific episode for me and for Johan, I can't speak for him, but he will speak for himself, but is, like, what is God? God is love. What is love? Love is good and bad. The good, celebrate it. The bad, find out what you can do to make it better. Like, that's, both of them are progress. Both of them are beautiful. If everything was just daisies and rainbows all the time, you would have been bored as fuck. Nothing would have motivated.
And also, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't exist, because tragedy is what resulted in us even being here in the first place.
Yes, we would.
It's an integral ingredient.
We would be these emotionless. Oh, Johan. Why not this?
No, but I mean, even if we just look at the dinosaurs would still be roaming the earth, and there wouldn't be a monkey in sight. I mean, tragedy is, you know what I'm saying. Tragedy is literally the thing that molded us and brought us here. Without it, there's been so many calamities on this planet, and every one of them necessary to shape and to remove the old and allow for new.
Even the progress of civilizations, as you're saying now as well, even with the dinosaurs, but
it rises and falls.
Like the waves, like the tides of the sea. Like, it's not possible to exclude the bad. And if you are the person that every bad thing that happens in your life, you go to a priest and say things are attacking you, then you must ask, maybe pause that and ask yourself, where am I open and where am I allowing this? Where's the responsibility on me to maybe change something about how the world is reacting to me, because I'm obviously doing some action that is not in accordance with the greater laws of the universe. If I keep on jumping off a roof and breaking my ankles, and I've done that 22 times, and I still go to the priest and say the devil is haunting me, it's the same thing we're doing every single day, especially in churches. It's the devil wants you. The devil wants to crush you. Yes, because it's a force that if you allow it, like any negative thing, it will crush you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that force is also the reason that you can rise like a phoenix out of the ashes. Like, you need to say thank you at the end of the day as well, because it's like, you can't just, yeah, I did it all on my own. No, buddy. No, buddy. That pain, that hate you felt for that uncle that did horrible things to you, that pain you felt for the random guy that forced himself on you when you were a young girl, that pain you felt for your father breaking things in your face every single day when you didn't do your homework. That's the reason why you are where you are today. When your father passed away, or your mother passed away, or both of your parents left you, for just left you, who would you have been now in not external circumstances, personality wise, spirituality wise, you as a person, as a being, without that pain? I can give you a simple answer. Look at people who were born rich
And had it easy too.
and they were always protected from troubles. I mean, if you look at Buddha's story, this guy, he was the king's son. The king tried to keep him from every single calamity, and he hid that away from him for many, many years. So he was always just safe in his kingdom, getting whatever he wanted, doing whatever he wanted. Up to a certain point, he got so bored and he escaped out to the outer reaches of the city. And he saw, no, wait a second, why is all these people starving? This guy's like really, he's almost like eating rocks on the road. Like, this woman's giving birth, but she's screaming of the pain. What's going on here? I don't know what this is. And he got to be the person that went and he looked for his own pain, even though he shouldn't have had any pain. And then he was the guy who got to a point where he made a statement where he said, attachments are the root for all our suffering. But I mean, he was the king's son. Imagine how many attachments he had. So he left all those things behind, and he did it for the people because he felt their pain. Now, is that not a good example of love?
Yeah.
And it's the same story. It's the same golden line you see with the story of Jesus.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The personal sacrifice for the saving of the community. Yeah, I mean it is the only hero story that matters. And I think yeah, and I mean it's you cannot you can't have a coin, right, without both a heads and a tails. Has no currency. It's worthless, right? You can't have light without darkness. You can't have darkness without light. These things are integral to each other. The one implies the other, and polarity and duality are the engine that keeps the simulation running, so to speak. It's the engine that drives things forward. But what people often don't recognize is that the thing that holds it together is love, right? It's the purpose of the conflict, so to speak, or of the opposites agitating each other, is to find resolution. It's to find love in the midst of difference, right? Because and in some ways the it's interesting because the Christians very much associate the destroyer force with creativity as well. and music, right? Specifically music, but creativity in someone in general. There's a connection between those two things, and part of the reason that is as it is, and why there's so much iconography of the devil in and around entertainment and music and art and creativity, is because the devil is sort of necessary for the creative process to exist. Like, if you don't make room, there's no space to put in new art. Like, if you don't knock down a wall, you can't build onto the house. So the devil is really the plow that prepares the soil for new growth. The devil is the one that chops down a forest or an area, clears an area in the forest to build a school. So
Yes.
it's the force that is disruptive, but without a disruptive force, the creative force couldn't exist. That's why we see this sort of correlation between the creative force and this disruptive force in this particular way. And if we don't respect and honor and love and appreciate the devil, you will, number one, never be free from the devil. I promise you. Until you love and appreciate the devil, you will always be a slave. You have to love and appreciate the light and the darkness equally before you can really be free. And it's difficult. I know. It's something that I still
We
struggle
all
with.
do.
A lot of the struggles with it. It's difficult because it's very, very hard to love and appreciate those things that are so painful, right? But the most painful, egregious, horrible things that have been done to me in my life, I now more and more am able to look at them as something that was done for me as opposed to me. It's not something that was done to hurt me, to destroy me, to break me, but it was done for me so that I would be broken, but so that I would also find the pathway to heal,
That's
and
so
then
powerful, man.
become somebody who can carry that healing forward to other people. Because the more difficult it is for you to learn something, the more you know about that thing. The more difficult it is the more you struggle, the more pain you go through, the deeper you are taken into yourself, the more that you gain, the more that you grow, right? It's like this is gonna be so wonderful for some Christians, what I'm about to say, but I really love the tabletop role playing game Dungeons and Dragons,
I know.
and God is the best dungeon master in the world, and what I mean when I say that is, when you're the one running the game, you have to create. If you just give the players a peaceful, tranquil experience, they'll be so bored they'll never come back. Right? Like, what people are there to do is to take on some kind of
Yes.
challenge, right? And so you need to create a challenge for
I
them.
love this, man.
And when you're still learning how to create a challenge for the players, because you want them to be engaged, you want them to enjoy themselves, they're your friends, you're trying to figure out how much resistance do you have to create in order to make it just challenging enough that they have fun, but not so challenging that they feel awful about themselves, right? And so I feel that God knows precisely what challenge level we require at each level in our development for us to be maximally stimulated. If that makes sense. It's like God modulates the difficulty and your challenges. And if you're being given challenges where you're like, this is insurmountable, this is insane, you're supposed to feel that. That's what the dungeon master wants you to feel, like you could never win this fight. That's the point. Because then it's fun. Then you're like then you're like actually questioning the outcome.
Yeah, imagine you come out of that.
And then when you do get through that impossible thing you thought you could never possibly do, and you survive it and you thrive through it, you're like, then there's this incredible sense of relief, and this it's this wonderful thing at the end. So it really does appear to me that these are some of the best ways to actually look at the way that God treats us. It's like yeah, God is love, but he understands that this is actually a journey of evolution and growth. And if you always fight the same, horde of five goblins at the same level, you're never gonna get enough XP to get to level 20, right? You're never gonna be able to actually learn enough if the challenges doesn't escalate. Because as you get stronger and tougher as a soul, as a spirit being, aside from just our physical bodies come and go, right? But the spirit is eternal. So our spiritual being is leveling up with each encounter that we go through. And I personally, and from experience, think that this happens over multiple lifetimes.
I agree with you. Yes.
Some of the early church fathers also felt this way. So I think what it is, it's the whole process is about leveling us up, giving us a challenge, giving us that feeling of I'm never gonna make it, right? But don't forget who's running the game.
Yeah.
Right? It's the all-loving God. Like, he's the one that's setting the stage. Like, yes, he creates an extremely dramatic narrative that terrifies the living shit out of all of us at times, right? Yes, but that's what he's creating an immersive experience. Like, it's God's creating an experience that's going to challenge you, that where you question whether you're going to make it through to the end or not, where you really don't know if you're gonna pass or not, right? Whether that goblin or troll is going to smack your head off, you don't know. But that feeling, that it's about that experience. God's trying to create that, that moment afterwards where you're like, whoa, I thought I was going to die there and I made it. I thought that was going to be, and when you actually physically die at the end of your human, that human experience, it is one of those moments where you're like, oh no, I'm dying. And then you die and you're like, oh, I'm still here. Oh yeah. It's one of those moments of relief again, where you're like, oh, because it's almost like going into an abyss when you die, but actually you come out on the other side and realize that there was nothing to be afraid of to begin with.
Like a DMT trip.
Yeah. And so and yeah, dude, I really, like, funnily enough, playing role-playing games and stuff really gave me this perception of like, okay, God is just, he's creating this story for us to live in, and so we have to have villains for a good story. I mean, every good story has a good villain.
That's what I wanted to say now as well. If you look at Shakespeare plays, like how does those type of things keep you glued in, or a good drama or a good movie? How does it keep you on the edge of your seat? It's because it's got all these different factors in. It's got anger, jealousy, hate, and then normally the story ends where there's a lesson to be learned, or there's a lesson learned. Doesn't matter if it's through a lot of pain or a little pain, but there's always a lesson that's learned at the end, and there's progression. If there's a movie, there's no movie you've ever watched that was good that didn't have that storyline, whereas there's progression at the end, or there was realizations, or there was lessons that should have been learned. Sometimes there's lessons that should have been learned, but the main character still didn't get it. But it's that's just the character didn't take responsibility still.
But other people learn from the lesson.
And that's still,
thing, right?
That's why we watch it.
If that character doesn't learn, other people learn from
that's
that
why
character.
We watch it. And that's why we always say, in the Bible, it's also spoken in these words, that we're brothers and sisters, because we learn off each other as well. Even if that guy messes up and he doesn't learn from his own mistakes, I've been that guy for a very long time in my life, where people were like, okay, I'm right, I'm not going to do that, man. Not going to do that. And it's okay. There's a positive impact still due to those shitty actions we make. In the long run, it has an impact on our brothers and sisters around us, and we evolve together. Because if you're thinking you're evolving on your own, dude, no one is alone in their story. There's always people around you, people helping you, people breaking you down, people. There's always people around you. If you're a human being, your story is not alone. You can go sit in the middle of Antarctica and sulk about something that happened in the past. Those people still have an impact on you. That's why you're sitting in Antarctica. Like, I wrote down a few things here. I wrote here, and we develop a love for self, for other, and for our creator or source through pain only. And people don't think about this. Like, how else do you move forward in life? And this is, again, I call this a beautiful sadness, or actually again, love. Because that pain is the same thing as love. And that's why they say love is painful. Because if you are evolving because of that pain, and you are then better fitting your source or creator, the others around you, and yourself afterwards because of that pain, how can you not call it love? Are you still really seriously going to call it the devil? Because the problem with that is, you can still do that. And every calamity that happens in your life, you can label it and put the responsibility on whatever you think it is externally. But the problem is the lesson will never be learned. The same thing or in a different scenario will happen again, and you will not understand, and you'll probably do the same thing. Now, what I'm suggesting is, what if you embrace it? What if you become that pain? What if you don't direct it outwards towards the ones you love around you, because we hurt the ones closest to us? You keep that in, and you actually get, you don't make it worse, because it's already there. You can't make it worse. That's the illusion. But what you can do is you can say, how can I change my thought process because of this that I'm feeling now? Or how can I change the results because of this that I'm feeling now? Or how can I change my actions because of this that I'm feeling now? Because obviously something is not in alignment with universal laws. And you're just being nudged back into it. If you're not going to listen, if it's the right scenario, you might die. But unfortunately, the lesson will, and as Johan said, we learn this in multiple lifetimes. That's how I view it as well. Unfortunately, the lesson will not be learned in this lifetime. Don't worry, buddy, you're going to give birth again, because Johan were talking earlier about God being a circle. And it's going to be a circle, and it's going to keep on being a circle up until the circle has no function anymore. And the only time the circle has no function anymore is when you fully evolved past duality. Yeah. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. And one other thing, and this is something I thought about a lot in my life, and especially a lot of religious systems has this outcome where you fall, at some point you go to Valhalla. Like Vikings have sacrificed themselves for centuries because of this thought processing, and maybe because it was also misunderstood at many points. But also they sacrificed themselves normally in the name of bravery or honor for others. Is that not what Jesus did?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say, and that's not to say that's the end of the evolution. They will probably come back again. But it gets them closer to what we call heaven. Because people think heaven is this one place you'll go to, and they've got these ideas in their head where it's this palace, and you're going to end up somewhere in the air where there's a palace, and then suddenly God is going to be drifting to you, and he's going to be this man with his beard, and he's going to be like, my son, I'm so glad you are finally here. That might be an image in your head while you passed away, but that's still not the reality of the case, I feel. I feel heaven is the only place where you can get heaven, and I get this for brief periods in breathing exercises, in meditations, in when I'm exercising really hard and I can focus on, there's as if there's nothing. That's how I define heaven. It's when we've evaporated, these dualities have totally evaporated, and there's a nothingness. So that's how I view heaven. I don't know about you, Yuan, but I think people are looking for this place, whereas they've been shitty human beings on earth, but because they believed in the name of Jesus, now suddenly when they die, they're not going to be so shitty anymore.
Oh, this is a completely
There's no, what is the basis of that? As above, so below. Like, do you honestly think that if you didn't resolve your problems here, because it's the way how things were interpreted, and also from language to language to language to language, that people think that that's going to be the case, whereas you're allowed to be shitty and then just repent, ask for forgiveness, and when you die, you're good. But if you didn't ask for forgiveness and repented, then when you die, shit's gonna get really bad and you're gonna burn. I just feel that it doesn't add up. That's not love for me. That is still a mindset based on fear, and it's fear because I don't want the other side, which is still duality.
Yeah. No, it is and that's why Christians often have a particular struggle with transcending quote unquote evil. They get stuck with evil and they never get past transcending evil, the good and evil, right? Because there are layers of reality, and they stack up in complexity as each layer goes up. And the most fundamental layers of reality, you can call them gross matter, right? Atoms, electrons. But even they exhibit incredible magic. But as we go up in complexity through reality, we leave the physical behind. But what will inevitably, what's so kind of ironic is that if you truly do repent, you will have a change in final outcome. However, repentance is not saying sorry. It's not apologizing. It's not trying to make restitution. Repentance is to think in a different way. Is to have a mental change right? And all is mind. So when you realize what the word repentance, Jesus was right when he said repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Like it's right here. It's within arm's reach. Another because at hand means it's right here, right now, available, present. He never spoke about heaven as something that you run away.
It's something in the future. Very
careful. He always talked about heaven and hell very much as present, now. And yes, there's some metaphor. He says, oh, and the kingdom of heaven is like, and he'll tell a little story. But he's talking about a very real present reality for the most part.
Because all realities are present, sorry, I just want to mention this as well, are present now at this moment. Like all dimensions are here now. They're not going to be somewhere at some point.
Yeah. Even if we're not aware of it. So what he's saying is that repent, okay, so I need you to change your mind so that you may apprehend the kingdom which is above, or of a higher order, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of the sky, the kingdom of that which is above, because that is within arm's reach. In other words, and then there's another place in the Bible where it says, you will be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That word is actually transfigure. It's the same word to use to describe Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration, which he starts to glow and everything. So you will be transfigured through a novel. That word is the use there specifically novel way of thinking. So that has nothing to do with your prayerful apology. Now, I'm not saying that apologies are not necessary or helpful, or not that confessions can be necessary or helpful. They can play their part in our process of transformation. What I'm saying is that the only thing that actually matters for the transformational process to properly occur is for a true change of mind.
You said a true change
Which
of
is a
being,
change
ne?
of being.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, which is then also a true change of being. Because if your mind changes, your whole being changes. So what Jesus is talking about is not some get out of jail free card. I'm sorry, like the Christians have this way wrong, because they made it that because it's marketable. But this is not the bloody gospel.
Yeah.
It's that
isn't.
as you transform your way of thinking, you will begin to transfigure as Christ did, exhibit incredible power, tap into the complexity of the other dimensions of reality, begin to manifest those through your physical form, and eventually even transcend the physical. That's what he's talking about. It's not a get out of jail free card. Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry. And you die, and then now all of a sudden you just get to play in a field of paradise forever. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is completely
And
absurd.
99% of people think this way,
really
dude.
Is.
And
And people need to be told that this is completely
if you
absurd.
just think long enough about it, doesn't add up.
No, it's completely ridiculous. And it's not representative of the teachings of Christ,
Yes.
nor of any of his earliest disciples. So, yeah. But because there's this idea that heaven and hell are these future realities that are meant to scare us onto the right path is the most ridiculous.
Because the future is also a projection, just as the past is. Like, you can get stuck in the past,
Yeah.
or you can get stuck in preparing for the future. But that means both of those cases, you're not present. So what's happening in your life currently, you're not aware of, meaning you're not experiencing God. You're taking out of the experience of God. Even if it's painful now, that if you can sit through that, evolve based on that painful experience and understand these ways how I've acted or these things that I've done. I've recently learned a few lessons, like hard lessons, man. But then you need to go and reflect on that and say, okay, this way I've acted or what I've said here or what I've done here or what I've... It's still my responsibility to now evolve and not do this again because I'm going to get the same results. Again, it's not going to benefit others, myself, or my creator. Now, I think that's a much more beneficial way of approaching life than everyone just pointing fingers and no one taking responsibility, so no problems ever get resolved. I wrote down here now, like, if you just look at those poor kids in Africa, like the ones that go through real adversity, man, we don't know shit about that. Okay. If you look at them, and I've seen so many on these documentaries or whatever, when any other outsiders or people come to them, like they're almost like little angels. They do not know jealousy. They do not know hate for people in their tribe. They know fear, but only when it's necessary, when something's going to try to kill them. Like, and then you compare that to a rich kid that was born into a rich household. And you put the two together.
Riddled with anxiety.
And then you put the two things together and then you ask yourself, listen, was the good in the long run actually good? Was the bad in the long run actually just bad? Because the two results, the end results, are fundamentally different. And it looks to me, just by looking at it, that the African kids are happier than guys being born in rich families. Now, then,
Yeah.
according to logic there, it must make sense to sometimes in life pursue pain.
Yes.
Because if you're not going to pursue pain, you are not going to evolve.
Yes. And perhaps we could even say that pain will pursue you.
Yes, yes, yes.
That it's you're either chasing pain or pain is chasing you. It's like but either way pain is gonna be at the table, right? So if you don't voluntarily engage with pain, pain will involuntarily engage with
And
you.
if you run from pain, you'll still get pain. If you don't run from
Yeah.
pain, you'll still get pain, but there would be a ceasing of pain at
Yeah.
some point.
Well, but when you don't run from pain, now all of a sudden pain is no longer suffering.
Right?
And this is the thing with there's a difference between pain and suffering, and the difference is in your head and your attitude towards that pain and your attitude towards approaching pain. Because for me, I learned almost everything I know about healing the body through the pain teacher. He came into my life, or she came into my life, and like a dragon, and was like, every time you piss me off, I'm going to set you on fire, and you're going to learn. and the more you listen, and the more you're aware, and you don't try to run away from the pain and listen to what the pain has to say to you, the more quickly that you will get out of it
The more we become
and
the
move
hero in
on
our own
to.
story.
Yes. Well, I mean, I get out of it is different. But get out of the pain that you're in now, because the pain that I experience now on a day-to-day basis is more and more choices. It's voluntary discomfort. It's voluntary challenge. It's the cold showers. It's the breath work. It's the pain of working out. I voluntarily go to the pain teacher now to be tutored, so that it does not find the need to come and tutor me in my life otherwise.
No, definitely.
And when you volunteer for something, it's much easier to endure it than when it's subjected onto you.
Yeah, no, awesome, Johan. No, definitely. We're both in the same mind there, dude. I love it. Always love having these
Yeah.
type of chats with you. So let's just quickly refresh.
Same,
Heaven,
dude.
heaven will only happen. Whatever religion you're following, whatever, if you're striving for Valhalla, heaven, whatever you want to call it, the only place that will happen is if you stop creating an enemy outside.
Yeah.
Heaven can only be found by being present and seeing what the hell in you is and how you can actually transcend it to something of a higher frequency. Up to a point where,
Yeah.
as Jesus said, Jesus will defeat the devil at the end of the day. Okay. Now, again, lost in translation, but we all will, because we're stuck in eternity, boys and girls. So, at the end of the day, duality will die because there would be a ceasing of needing to learn on this physical plane, and or through physicality to spirituality, because we would have ascended to a certain point where we are in the same mind as God. So all these things would not be necessary anymore. These two forces don't have to bounce against each other anymore. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we've got like 30 seconds left. Anything else you want to say, Johan? Sorry.
Um. It's one love.
One
And
love.
the darkness implies the light implies the darkness, and the good is not always as good as it seems, and the bad's usually not as bad as it seems. And choose voluntary healthy pain that forces you to grow, as opposed to infliction of pain from the outside. The more conscious you are, the more aware you are, the more in tune you are with what God's doing with you, the less you're going to be in conflict with and feel internally troubled by it. Instead, it's going to be painful, difficult. The journey is always tough, but you will feel in resolve with it. You will feel comfortable with it because you're like, this is what I'm doing. I understand the path that I'm on. I understand what I'm doing. I'm voluntarily being taught by pain. So, did I lose you there, buddy? Okay. All right. So we've lost Nautilus there. He's in South Africa. We have something called load shedding for all of you international folks. And what that basically means is an involuntary power outage where they just switch the power off because they're unable to supply. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, viewers. If you would like, please give us a like and a subscribe. Leave us a comment. It helps with the algorithm. And if you'd like us to address any kind of topics that you're interested in, we're not always sure what the audience would really, really like. So please feel free to leave a comment if you have any topics that have been of interest or things you're really, really kind of fascinated about and want to hear our opinions about. Then we'll try and share that with you. If we don't know the answers, we'll try and find them as best we can for you. And if we don't know, we'll just say we don't know. I mean, we're not trying to put up an image or nothing. It's we'll do our best. And yeah. So yeah, please like, subscribe, leave the comments. Give us a share us with your friends, and yeah, hope you have a wonderful week.